Since the inception of Skyrim modding, modders have been tirelessly trying to make playing Skyrim a more immersive experience. A ton of new mods have come in as of late that have continued this endless pursuit of immersion, and today we'll be taking a look at some of the best ones to come out within the last year or so. For the purposes of this video, immersive mods are ones that deepen your sense of realism, allowing you to get further lost into the game, as well as mods that expand and flesh out the game's existing lore to create an overall more realistic and cohesive world. A great place to start is with J-Serpa's Simple Hunting Overhaul, a mod that integrates a streamlined hunting experience to Skyrim. Heavily inspired by Red Dead Redemption 2, it provides a seamless, lore-friendly experience to hunting without the need of excessive menus or other tedious systems. Upon successfully hunting an animal, you'll be able to skin it on the spot to collect the pelt. A brief animation will play, the screen will fade to black and a small bit of time will pass. The more experience you have as a hunter, the less time it will take. After skinning the animal, what's left behind is a new skinned model to further emphasize the realism of the skinning process. Additionally, you can now pick up carcasses with a simple modifier combined with your standard loot key. To have the carcass displayed on your shoulder, you'll need the Carry Your Carcass mod as well, which isn't a direct requirement for simple hunting, but one that is highly recommended as they are more or less built to be used together. This will also allow you to place them on the back of horses for transport. Simple hunting makes it so if NPCs witness you carrying a carcass, they may comment on the spoils of your hunt. This comes in the form of random comments or acknowledgement by fellow hunters.
Fellow hunter, what do you need?
Guards, on the other hand, may approach you under the pretense of poaching.
That's a valuable animal. You can't take that. What say you in your defense?
Although, this could be avoided if you purchase a hunting permit for the hold you'd like to hunt in. Merchants that handle food or other similar materials will buy carcasses directly from you, offering different amounts depending on the quality of the meat, as well as the merchant's personal preferences.
You've done well. Thank you. Here, this is for you.
Making for an enjoyable minigame in the process of finding the best places to sell certain types of meats. There's also a fair bit of funny interactions that could potentially take place depending on the merchant, as well as the type of meat you bring them.
What in the world? I don't have to take that from you.
Simple Hunting Overhaul brings much more value to the presence of wildlife in Skyrim, and if used in conjunction with a survival and needs mod of your choice, it will create a truly worthwhile hunting experience in Skyrim. But to even further enhance what Simple Hunting has to offer, you'll want a few additional mods such as Immersive Death Cycle, which introduces a dynamic decay process for animal corpses. After 4 hours they will be slightly eaten and decomposed, and 12 hours post-death only bones will remain. After an ample amount of time passes, those bones too will eventually disappear. For an even greater extent of realism, you'll also want to use Immersive Hunting Animations, which implements several hunting related animations, some of which you've already seen earlier in the video. This includes animations for retrieving arrows from a carcass, skinning the pelt of an animal, butchering an animal for meat, looting ingredients or other materials from a carcass, as well as a combined processing animation if you were to loot all ingredients from an animal carcass at once. And lastly, there's a new pickup animation for grabbing a carcass to carry. The mod Immersive Carcass Carrying further expands on this by providing animations for carrying that feel weighty and realistic. As you can see, these new animations provide a deeper level of realism to the hunting process, and although animation mods may not be the first thing you think about in regards to immersion, they're absolutely crucial for making both characters and NPCs feel more alive and reactive to the world. Some of Skyrim's vanilla animations are clunky and repetitive in nature, and there's a lack thereof for certain in-game actions. So let's take a look at some incredible immersive animation mods that enhance some of Skyrim's existing animations, add new dynamic ones for increased diversity, as well as animate actions that haven't been animated ever before. There's no better place to start than with the mod Skyclimb, a revolutionary mod that introduces a true climb mechanic to Skyrim that's comparable to what could be seen in some modern games. By utilizing the EVGAT anime traversal framework, Skyclimb allows you to realistically climb walls and ledges, as well as vault over fences and other similar objects. The way it works is when you approach a ledge, a small indicator will appear. and by using the jump button or an assigned hotkey you'll be able to climb on top of that ledge. This allows you to interact with the world in a way that has never been possible, having great influence on how you approach both exploration as well as combat. Skyclimb isn't the only mod that has expanded on the EVG framework. Since the framework's release, it's made Skyrim's ladders no longer purely cosmetic. That is with the exception of ladders that act as doors, such as the ones that lead to the top of forts. EVGAT dynamic climbable ladder doors aims to rectify this. Instead of your screen fading to black instantly after activating one of these ladders and appearing at the exit, your character will now actually physically climb up the ladder, making the experience far less immersion breaking. Currently, this only works for climbing up ladders and not down due to the author facing issues with its implementation, although they do aim to eventually fix this. Next, let's take a look at Malignis Animations, a subtle and natural set of female animations that introduces a plethora of new idols that'll have your character do a variety of different things when you're standing still, such as cross their arms in several ways, place their hands on their hips, shoulders and chest, as well as stretch and shift their weight around in different manners. I couldn't help but be impressed by how realistic these animations look and how fluid the transitions are between the different idols. But the most impressive aspect of this mod has to be the new dialogue and barter animations. Your character will now cycle through a series of different idols when speaking with NPCs, making conversations feel more engaging and genuine. And for those using an unpaused game menu mod, there are new bartering idols that give off the impression that your character is contemplating their purchase. These really help breathe new life into your character, and I for one think these are easily some of the best female idol animations ever made for Skyrim. Now let's move on to some dynamic animation mods. If you're not familiar with these, they're animations that trigger under certain conditions or are randomized with the intent of providing variety to your character and NPCs, making them feel more alive and reactive to the world. There's been quite a number of these types of animations released as of late. One of my favorite implementations has to be J-Serpa's skill-based animations. It introduces animations for both the player and NPCs that vary based on the character's skill level or race. This essentially means there are now multiple animations for the same action that will progressively change as your skill level advances. For example, when a character's sneak skill is between 1 and 50, the standard sneak animation will be used. Between 50 to 75, a new sneak animation is introduced that will lower the character's center of gravity and smoothen out their movements. This is even further emphasized with the animations used if the character's sneak skill exceeds 75. This really enforces the idea that your technique is becoming more effective as you level up. There is an exception for Khajiits, which will receive the last stage of stealth animations regardless of their skill level, which makes sense due to their natural affinities. Besides sneak, the same concept applies to archery. If a character's archery skill is between 1 and 50, the character will utilize vanilla animations, which are noticeably unrefined and inexperienced. If the character's archery skill is above 50, any archery animation mod that you've installed will be used, meaning you do indeed have to be using one. I'd recommend either the animations from Archery Gameplay Overhaul or Vannergan Archery, as both of these are of high quality and much more refined compared to the vanilla ones. Bosmer, being inherently more skilled archers, receive the higher level animations regardless of skill. This mod also applies to magic animations, except animations change not based on skill level but by the amount of magicka a character has. Below 250, standard magic animations are used. Above 250, and whatever magic animations you install will be used instead. High Elves, Bretons, and Dark Elves, being inherently more skilled at magic, receive the more experienced magic animations regardless of their magicka. It's very immersive to see your character progressively grow beyond basic stat increases and new perks, and that the result of growth can be seen tangibly. Because this also applies to NPCs, it opens up the ability to identify the skill level of enemies based on the animations they're using. I really love the concept of this mod and hope to see it implemented for other skills in the future. Now let's take a look at a series of dynamic animation mods created by Sonderbain, starting with their most recent creation, Dynamic Torch Idol Animations, which replaces those boring, static torch idols with ones that'll have your character more actively move their torch around to survey the surrounding area, providing a much more cinematic experience to explore in the dark. There are 6 new idols in total, 3 for male characters and 3 for female characters. The cool part is that these will change according to the clothing or armor that your character is currently wearing, or you can choose to have them randomized, and this applies to all mods in Sonderbain's dynamic animation series. It's also worth noting that these affect NPCs as well. Next we have Dynamic Female Hand Warming, a mod that introduces 6 new dynamic hand warming idols that are again contingent on the outfit you're wearing. These include both standing and crouching variants, allowing players to idle at any heat source, which synergizes well with survival mods such as Sunhelm. If you're running survival mods, weather will have varying consequences for your character, so let's make characters more reactive to their environment with dynamic female weather type idols, which introduces 3 dynamic weather type idols that change depending on the specific weather conditions, with different ones for rain, ash, and snow, making your character visually affected by their environment. We also have dynamic female ledge sitting, adding 3 dynamic ledge sitting idols. Dynamic female rail leaning, which adds 3 dynamic rail leaning idols. And the last mod in Sonderbain's dynamic animation series is dynamic female wall leaning, adding 3 dynamic wall leaning idols. All of these are again dependent on the outfit that the player or NPC is wearing and are for now made exclusively for female characters with a style that may not necessarily be for everyone. With that said, another mod author has taken it into their own hands to create random male wall-leaning animations to complement Sonderbain's female exclusive ones. Like the previous mod, it aims to add more diversity and realism to wall-leaning animations, except these are tailored to male characters instead, adding a total of 4 leaning animations to both the player and NPCs. They range from a basic cross-armed variant to one that will have your character place their hand under their chin in quiet contemplation. With that, we've added an extensive amount of animations for characters, but we shouldn't ignore objects. The mod author Stone Spiral Gaming has created a series of mods that animate a bunch of static objects with cloth that should in theory be reactive to the wind. They've done so by tweaking the meshes of these objects, resulting in them gently rustling in the breeze. So far, the mods cover both Imperial and Nordic tents, Hagraven houses and fences, Falmer huts, as well as vendor carts, and lastly market stalls, although in the case of market stalls I'd have to recommend Rally's market stalls because they not only look incredible, but are also animated. A number of Skyrim's cities are home to large ports that are supposed to serve as an epicenter for trade, yet besides ships being docked in the harbor, the ports themselves and the sea surrounding it are vacant of any ships. The mod Animated Ships has a ton of ships that can be seen sailing the seas of Skyrim. The once vacant ports are now bustling hubs with ships coming in and out, greatly enhancing the aesthetic of these locations. You'll find that ports are more active around noon, and significantly less so at midnight. Every sailing ship is managed by a crew, and if you so choose you can board any of them and go along for the ride. Similar to how sailing ships were absent from the game, the same could be said for carriages. Besides carriage drivers patiently waiting outside of major cities, you would think they're non-existent because you never come across them traveling along the roads. The mod Animated Carriages aims to fix this. There are now NPCs that have places to be and are actively utilizing carriages as a means of transportation. You'll now see them traveling the roads along with merchant carriages transporting an assortment of goods. The mod currently adds only 2 carriage routes, both of which are centered around Whiterun. Although if you pair this with animated carriage additional routes, there will be 28 more routes spread across Skyrim, greatly increasing the frequency of encountering carriages and providing more opportunities to hitch a ride with one to travel to a desired location. Skyrim goes through some monumental events throughout any playthrough. Whether that be the Civil War, the resurrection of dragons, or the rise of vampires, all of these are consequential events. Yet for the most part, Skyrim's world remains static and unchanged. Environs, a series of mods by Cyberpunk, aims to make Skyrim's world more dynamic, ever-changing, and immersive. It takes existing locations and makes them change over time as a result of the player's direct intervention, or through the consequences of your overall broader actions such as siding with the Stormcloaks and pushing the Empire out of Skyrim's cities. These are all designed with compatibility in mind and are meant to fit seamlessly into the game. So let's take a look at what some of these mods have to offer. Environs, the Shrines of Talos, adds a series of dynamic changes and immersive details to several Talos-related locations. Many of these are dependent on who you choose to side with during the Civil War because they're centered around the impact caused by the Thalmor's ban on the worship of Talos. If you side with the Empire and manage to seize control of the city of Windhelm, the Temple of Talos within the city sees no consequences as a result. However, with this mod, the shrines will be torn down, the braziers and candles will burn out, and the 2 priests that typically reside will leave the city and go into hiding at a new location in the Rift. If the Empire controls Riften, the priests will no longer tend to the Talos shrine, causing the gardens surrounding it to deteriorate over time, until the shrine itself is eventually removed entirely, and a new Thalmor Justiciar will arrive in the city to patrol the streets. Although a new shrine will be added to the basement of Snowshod Manor, implying Talos is still being worshipped in secret. If you side with the Stormcloaks and manage to seize control of Markarth, the once abandoned Shrine of Talos will be reopened, and a new priest will move to the city to tend to the location. If you've explored around Falkreath, you may have stumbled upon a Shrine of Talos that is the scene of a brutal massacre that has left several Talos worshippers dead at the hands of the Thalmor. There's been a few additions made to this location, and now if you visit it early on in your playthrough, you'll be able to see the shrine prior to the massacre. That is until you reach a certain level threshold, and you'll once again see the aftermath of this event. These are just some of the alterations made to Talos related locations. The rest I'll leave for you to discover on your own. Let's move on to Environs, Abandoned Abodes, which focuses on making cities more dynamic by revitalizing abandoned buildings and homes that lay vacant as a result of quests. New and interesting NPCs will occupy and change these locations to suit their needs, making the completion of the associated quests more consequential. This mod touches several locations such as Markarth's abandoned house, which now upon the completion of House of Horrors will be renovated, and a new yet strange resident will move in. The Dawnstar Museum will be overhauled and occupied by a new NPC if Silius the museum's curator dies under any circumstance, which is bound to occur if you choose to follow Mehrunes Dagon during the quest to obtain Mehrunes Razor. The new resident is a Dwemer researcher, and the new interior reflects that. She will offer a simple quest for the player to acquire items to assist in her research. Another example is Alva's house in Morthal. During the Laid to Rest quest, Alva is revealed to be a vampire that is preying on the townsfolk of Morthal and guilty of orchestrating the burning of Harogar's home. Upon defeating her and completing the quest, a Nord woman will take over and renovate the now vacant home and transform it into a small store that sells general goods. Harogar's house, on the other hand, will still be burnt down, but Environs' Harogar's house covers this as well. Isa Blackthorn, whom you encounter in the Frostmere Crypt, will head to Morthal upon completion of the Pale Lady quest. She will become a permanent resident and rebuild Harogar's house in the process. The house will be gradually rebuilt over an 18-day period. Once fully rebuilt, Isa will move in and become a recruitable follower with new custom dialogue. Lastly, we have Environs' Riften Warehouse, which takes the empty warehouse after you disrupt the skooma supply during the supply and demand quest and transforms it into an East Empire Company outpost that sells assorted general goods, in addition to items imported directly from Solstheim. There are a number of other mods in the Environs series, but for the sake of time I won't be covering all these, although I definitely recommend checking them out. That's all the mods for today. There were a number of which I wasn't able to include as I felt the video was already becoming too long, so if you're interested in seeing more immersion related videos, comment down below. Also, I've recently launched my Patreon for those of you that want to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, and gain access to some meaningful rewards in the process, such as a few of the character presets that I use in my videos, as well as access to my current mod list. By supporting me on Patreon, you'll be enabling me to continue producing content and doing so on a more regular basis. With that said, leave a like if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new. And as always, thank you for watching.